Hi guys, welcome back to our Chess Sisters YouTube channel, and in today's episode we are going to teach you how pieces captures. Welcome.
So I'm going to start with the least piece, which is the pawn, and as we were taught how it moves, I'm going to refer with the way it moves. So if I start with d4, my opponent plays d5, I won't capture forward, although we know the pawn moves forward because it will be an illegal move. Instead, if I move my pawn to d4 and my opponent moves to e5, I can capture them diagonally. Or if my opponent plays to c5, I can still capture them diagonally. A pawn can't capture like a bishop diagonally, just like this. It only captures in one diagonal, just as easy as this. So I go again. It only captures in one diagonal and moves forward. So if I play here, my opponent plays here, I will capture them diagonally. If my opponent plays here, I still capture them diagonally. And I'm going to be teaching you a special move done by the pawn, which is called en passant, which means in passing. So once I play maybe to e4, my opponent plays to e5 wanting to trade, I don't accept the trade and I move forward. The first move of this pawn in the f7 square to the f5 square, I can do the en passant, which I will go to the box behind the pawn and capture it. It is a legal move allowed in tournaments. I've said if I move to e4, it doesn't matter which square, it doesn't need to be e4 only. Even other squares can do the en passant, but I'll just use the e4 so you can get it in a better angle. So if I play to e4 and my opponent plays to e5 or maybe any other move here, then I move in front. They touch this pawn or this pawn for the first time and just put it right next to my pawn. That and only that move is the time is when you are allowed to capture the pawn in en passant. Or otherwise, when you already play and I maybe play another move, then you play. If I do en passant, that is illegal. So the first move, only that turn that you have is the only turn you are given to do the en passant. I'm going to move to the next piece and we'll get the summary of how all the pieces capture. So let me move to the next piece, as I said, which is the knight. So as we know, the knight moves in an L 1-2 turn, and a capital L or a reverse capital L. So maybe let's say I start with this knight. My opponent plays to e5. See, already I can capture this knight, which is going to 1-2 turn. Then when I just turn on that pawn and I capture it. So the easiest way to understand is when I move to this square and there is a piece to a square where I can move to, I can capture that piece on my turn just by saying 1-2 turn. If that piece is on the box that you're going to turn to, you can capture it. But if it's not on the box you're going to turn to. For example, this box, I just go 1 to turn. I can't capture the pawn. I can't capture the pawn. But if it's on a square which I can capture, it's just as easy as 1 to turn or 1 to turn. And if I skip or jump over a piece, it doesn't mean like I can capture it. Let's say I play here, my opponent plays here, then I play maybe somewhere here, my opponent then plays here. You see, my opponent skipped over his pawn and I skipped over my pawn, so there's no way I can capture my own pawn because that will be illegal. Let's say then we play trade of pieces, then we come to a circumstance like this where I have to move. Maybe this pawn is attacking me. I will just jump over this piece by going 1 to turn or by going 1 to turn. But it doesn't mean I've captured this pawn. It only means that I've jumped over it but not capturing it. So we are done with the 2 pieces. We're going to move to the next piece, which is the bishop. So I'm going to use the dark squared bishop. So maybe this I started, then my opponent started, then I start like this. Then my opponent plays this pawn of e5 and I can just simply capture. So I can, a bishop can capture, adjust. A bishop can capture 1 square diagonally like a pawn, 3 squares, 4 squares, or 5 squares, whichever you want. It can capture in long diagonals and short diagonals. So if this pawn were to be somewhere here, I will just go capture it. Let's assume these 2 pawns weren't here, so I can just capture that pawn because it's a free pawn and I won't be captured by another piece. So if you want to capture, there are the points as we taught you in our other video. So points determine how you can capture that piece. So maybe this piece is over here. I have a pawn right over here. I have a knight somewhere here, this here. All these 3 things are attacking this pawn, and these 3 are defending this pawn. So I'm going to calculate inside my head. You're not supposed to calculate loudly, like if I move here they'll capture. You are supposed to calculate in your head so that your opponent won't know your next move. So if I capture with this, a knight is 3 points, a pawn is 1 point. I'll be capturing 1 point. But then this pawn can capture me. Those are 3 points lost. Well, these are 3 points lost. Well, I have gained 1 point, but my opponent has gained 3 points. So you see, you are the one who comes at loss. So when trading, you need to look at the points of the pieces so that you can determine if it's a good trade or a bad trade. So we're going to move to we were still on the bishop. I forgot. So a knight and a bishop have 3 points. So if this knight plays here, I will just capture the knight. I'll be gaining 3 points, while the pawn will capture my bishop and my opponent's side will be gaining 3 points. We both have 3 points, so no one is at loss. But we can say that black is at loss because you are not supposed to have doubled pawns. Doubled pawns are like if there are 2 pawns of the same file. That is a loss. Okay, so we have known how the bishop captures, and in the other video, as you are taught, a dark squared bishop stays at a dark square, while a light squared bishop stays at a light square. So if I have a light squared bishop, I will only capture in a light squared box. If I have a dark squared bishop, I'll only capture on a dark squared box. I'm going to move to the next piece, which is the rook. So the rook moves like a compass, as we were taught. So if there's this opening where if I play here, then maybe you play here, I play, then maybe you play, then I play here. And maybe this queen is not here, there's nothing to protect this pawn, and maybe you don't see this pawn is hanging. A piece which is hanging is a piece which can be captured that is not protected. That is what we call the hanging piece. So I'll just capture the piece by just moving into it and staying on the box which it is on. Just as simple as this, because there's nothing that can capture me, and I will be gaining a point while my opponent won't be gaining anything. So my opponent is at loss because he's a pawn, he or she is a pawn down. Going to move to the next piece. As I said, even though we are going a bit fast, we are going to do the summary. So the next piece we are going to be looking at is the queen. And the queen, as we said, moves like a full compass: north, south, east, west, northwest, southeast, northeast, and southwest. It can just capture in all those directions you have just said. So if a pawn lands just maybe right here, I'll just capture it going to the west side. If a pawn lands right next to me, I'll capture it going to the east side. If a pawn lands in front of me, I capture it going to the north side. It moves and captures in all. It moves and captures in all squares and all directions, just like a full compass, as we said. And this queen is not like the king. The king moves in a full compass but one square at a time. But the queen can move in multiple squares. So the total of squares that the queen can move to is 27. And as we said in our earlier video, the queen is the most powerful piece, also called as the advisor, and the king is the most important piece. So I can capture diagonally, I can capture sideways, and also if there was, let's say there was a piece behind me, so just play it here. Let's assume these pieces I've removed are not there, and maybe this knight finds its way till behind the queen. The queen can capture this knight by just moving behind. Every piece on this board can move backwards and capture backwards, except the pawn. The next piece we are going to look at is the king. So the king moves like a full compass but one square at a time. So if this pawn just lands here, I capture it like the pawn, one square diagonal, either forward or backwards, sideways. Yes, just like that, a full compass. So like a full compass is the way the king can capture, but one square at a time, as we said. So if this knight, if this pawn was supposed to be here, I cannot capture it sideways, or because it's a square. I can't capture it because it's not beside me, in front of me. Although it's beside me, but it's one square beside me. If this pawn were to be here, I can't capture it because it's not beside me, just the next square. It is after the next square right here where the king can move to. So if I play here, skipping one box, that will be an illegal move, because we said the only time the king can move 2 squares is the special move called castling. Apart, it's beside me, but it's one square beside me. If this pawn were to be here, I can't capture it because it's not beside me, just the next square. It is after the next square right here where the king can move to. So if I play here, skipping one box, that will be an illegal move, because we said the only time the king can move 2 squares is the special move called castling. Apart from that, a king cannot move 2 squares. So once we have learned on how all these pieces capture. Now, before I tell you the summary on how the pieces capture, I want to show you how to trade wisely using the points of all the pieces. So we've started the game and I've placed my pawn on d4. Then black places the knight on c6. But I decide to place my knight on c3. Then black decides to capture, saying there's not saying that white should have placed this knight here so that she or he can capture me, not knowing that it was protected by the queen. But not all opponents are just going to do that. All the opponents are going to capture using the points. So I play here, my opponent plays here. I can play forward because I'll be attacking this knight and it's 3 points while I am at 1 point. So maybe lucky the black person has watched our video, so they know that you are supposed to be trading pieces according to their points. Will just defend themselves by just playing to b4 and escaping the trap you put them in. So then that is the way to escape any bad trade. A bad trade is when a pawn maybe captures maybe a smaller piece, as in a piece which has a smaller point, capturing a piece which has a higher point, which maybe I capture the knight which is 3 points and this pawn captures me. Black will have 1 point which is just 1 gain, but I will have 3 points. So I have a higher gain than my opponent. That is a bad trade. But a good trade is where maybe this bishop is here. It's 3 points and the knight is 3 points. So I capture the knight, then I get captured. This is a good trade. Why? Because both sides have gained 3 points and there is no side which is at loss. So to determine a good trade and a bad trade, just look at the points of the pieces you want to trade. You cannot trade a rook for a bishop being captured 5 points and only capturing 3 points. That will be a loss and not a gain. So as I said, to determine a good trade, look at the points of the pieces you are about to trade. See which piece has a higher point. If you will gain as much or you will gain more than your opponent, that is a good trade. But if you gain nothing or gain less than your opponent, that is a bad trade. So the summary of the video today is the pawn captures one square diagonally. The queen can capture like a full compass. The king can capture like a full compass but one square. The bishop can capture diagonally. The knight can capture like a reverse L, capital L, or a good capital L. And the rook can capture like a compass, which is north, south, east, west. And that is the whole summary of the board. And just a point to note. Capture wisely. Capture according to the points of your pieces. Remember, capture according to the points of your pieces to have a gain and not to have a loss. A loss, as I said, just to make you remember so that you won't forget as I do. A loss is when you gain nothing from the trade or you gain lesser than your opponent. That is a loss. But a gain is when you get the same points as your opponent or higher point than your opponent. That is a gain. Gain and loss. Oh, and hey guys, remember to subscribe our video, like, and also share for more videos like this. We will always be posting videos about chess, so stay tuned if you need anything. Bye bye.